Imagine having one extra day every week, more time to cook healthy meals, work on that novel, or just binge some good reality TV. Now it's all possible with ClickUp, the productivity platform that'll save you one day a week on work guaranteed. It's packed with features and customization options that no other productivity tool has, so you can work the way you work best. Use code BizTech to get 15% off ClickUp's massive unlimited plan for a year, meaning you can start reclaiming your time for under $5 a month. Sign up today at clickup.com and use code BizTech. Hurry, this offer ends soon.
Hey coconuts, so yes, last week we talked a little bit about wealth accumulation. And in the pursuit of trying to accumulate wealth, sometimes we do moves that are a little bit crazy, right? Or some would say a little bit risky. But hey, let's be clear. A lot of people, they only realize that things are very risky when shit happens, right? When things are not so great, which is about now, right? So a lot of things are down, a lot of the investments are down. If you full on went crypto, it's going to be crazy for you. All sorts of stuff, right? So I've decided to talk about today's topic because I am seeing quite a lot of friends getting burnt in the market, and some of them are feeling a little bit down, or I would say even in a little bit of a turmoil, right? So going into the abyss. So I'm sure maybe you will have friends. So am I sure? Am I maybe? I think I'm pretty sure that you have friends around you that are struggling financially, whether they tell you or not. And so I thought that, maybe today we can spend some time to talk about supporting a friend through financial turmoil. So good morning, everyone. I welcome you to another day with the Financial Coconut. In our podcast, we'll be debunking financial myths, discovering best financial practices, and discussing financial strategies that fits our unique life. You get it. Ultimately, empowering us to create a life we love while managing our finances well. My name is Reggie, aka your Chief Financial Coconut, and today we are going to spend some time to talk about supporting a friend through financial turmoil. I don't think you need me to tell you, but things are a little bit crazy in the market. It'd be great if you were on the fence and now you're like, hey, a lot of things are the bargain, we're going to go for it, and all that, right? Whatever you have, I think different people are entering the market at different times. So that is you. So we're not here to discuss about investment strategies and, what are interesting out there. But today we're going to talk about a little bit more touchy side of financial literacy where things are not so well. When things are a little bit down, how do you get past this? And a lot of financial planners or a lot of these experts, they make it sound very easy. Just do this, just do that, rearrange your finances. You got to cut back on your spending, So there's a lot of that. I don't think you need me to repeat what they say. And I have had this discussion with many financial planners and many, financial experts. And a lot of them, when they look at things, it's very numbers, right? It's very like, finance. This is how things are. But the reality is, it is a lot harder to get out of a financial turmoil, not solely because you are in a shittier financial state, but it affects that whole person. It affects your person, it affects your energy, it affects your self-assessment. You doubt yourself, you spiral down. And if you ask me why, I know because I've been through something like that. So I've been through some pretty horrid episodes, and it was really hard. And I'm very certain from a first person's perspective, I can be very sure to tell you that it is not just about, just plan your finances better, cut back, get a job. And it's not just that, right? It's a lot more complicated. And that being said, right, I'm not saying that these experts are saying wrong things. They're not, right? Objectively, they are speaking to their best ability and their best information. And I think it is quite accurate because, let's be clear, if you lose money, if you, lost your capital, or you get burned in the markets, whatever you want to call it, the only way out is really to recapitalize yourself. That means to regather your capital again. And very unlikely you're going to sit there and capital is going to come, or your investments are going to bounce back immediately. So you're going to do some hard moves. You're going to take some cuts. But the challenge here is not so much about those things. The challenge here is how do you then get out of that whole emotional side of things? And today we're going to focus on supporting that friend. If you just so happen to be first person, I think I did quite a few episodes. I think somewhere in the episode 90 plus range. We've done so many. yeah, you can go and take a look, talk a little bit about this. But today we're going to focus on supporting the friend because from a third person's perspective, it is very different. So let us first be clear about what is a financial turmoil, right? Let us set that parameter. If you lose some money, maybe 10, 20, 30,000 or, even a little bit more, or you just lose some money, you lose a holiday, you even if you lose a little bit of a bigger sum, but it doesn't fundamentally affect your quality of life. It doesn't fundamentally, disrupt your pursuit, right? Because I've seen on forums, some people are talking about, I invest in all these things in Ether and then I lost everything and now I cannot buy my house, blah, blah, blah. I think that is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about financial turmoil. And also be clear, it's not just about crypto, right? The stock market came down. I know some people are practicing options. The mortgages rates are moving up. You have 2, 3, 5 properties, it's going to affect you or maybe your friend, okay? So yeah, whether it's your friend or you, it's fine. But we all learn. We all learn as we go along. But today we focus on the friend. So I define financial turmoil as a financial impact that fundamentally affects your goals or your abilities to achieve your goals, which causes you to lose your grip in life and everything kind of just spiral outwards beyond just finances, beyond just money. It gets into your emotions, affects your broader life, affects your social relationship, affects your ability to think about, things pretty much. So the question is then, if my friend is going through something like that, should I support them? Should I go through this with them? A lot of people will say, oh yeah, of course, you're a good friend, we're supposed to do this together, blah, blah, blah. So let's be real, if you're that kind of friend, great. If you believe that you can, go for it, right? Do what you need to do. But I think as we move along in our lives, as we become a little bit more mature, we realize that by supporting a friend that is going through something like that, we are on a big level entrenching ourselves into their problems. So we are going to need to carry a lot of their load, not particularly financially, because how much you have to really support your friend, right? But you have to go through a lot of things together emotionally, spiritually. Sometimes they just don't want to do anything and you gotta talk to them, support them, make them feel safe, make them feel comfortable to, let's say, go for credit counseling or talk to their spouse. Sometimes they need a third person to be around. So when I say being that friend to support someone through the financial turmoil, it is quite a heavy thing. There are a lot of things that you need to participate with. And with that, you really got to think about whether is this friend worth it or not. And I'm not here to tell you whether a friend is worth it or not. That is for you to decide whether is this friend worth it. Is it because, you guys have a great relationship for the prolonged period as a childhood friend, or, you guys are like synonymous together, doppelganger, sister, brother, whatever you want to call it, okay? That is for you to decide whether your friend is worth it. But before we begin on today's episode, I just need you to be very clear that what you choose to sign up with in this process of supporting a friend through a financial turmoil is a lot more complicated than just, a random hangout like, hey, how are you? How are things going? No. Those are just like touch and go. You're not very supportive in that sense. Maybe that is the maximum that you can. Okay, well, so be it. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that you're wrong, but when I look at supporting a friend through a financial turmoil, and I want to get them out of it, right? Not just, hey, how are you, right? I want to work through with them from end to end to get out together or get out of it, supporting them. It is a lot more complicated than it is. And you ask me how I know. Of course, like I said, right, I've been through something pretty hard. And if you're a long-term listener, you would know I've been through scams, I've lost money, challenged my beliefs and blah, 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 all sorts of stuff, right? So I will not repeat those things, but I want to highlight a part of my life where every day I was just lying in bed. Every day I was just lying in bed. I didn't really want to do anything. And a friend of mine, really amazing, very brother, right? It's like every week, Jomi go swimming. Every week, Jomi go to the gym. And that was all I was looking forward to, like every day I was just thinking, oh, hey, when's the next session? When's the next session? And those, when I look back in life, right? I look back in time and I realize those little chills, right, were so important because those things kept me going. What's next? What's next week? What's next? What's next? And it's that regular gym, that regular swim session, them him buying me lunch. Those were the part that kept me moving and not further fall into the abyss. So but it's a lot more complicated than that in the sense of how I was feeling. Because maybe to you, it sounds like, oh, just chill, friend, go gym lah, or like just eat lah, together, or just buy them makan. But from a first person's viewpoint, what I was going through, that was amazing. And when I look back at this, right, I think it's actually a lot harder because every time I meet the person, I'm not in the best emotional state. I'm very low, very self-doubt, all those things. And my friend was just holding me through that whole process. And to me, that is the part that needs to be discussed. And that's the part that we really need to expand on when supporting a friend through financial turmoil. Which then brings me to point number 1. And that is to make sure that firstly, you are in a decently good state and your support system around you is notified. What do I mean? Maybe when we were younger, when we were like schooling days, 17, 18, maybe in uni, right? What is around us? Our friends, we go and study together, hang out. Nothing much really. No one is really relying on us, right? We are probably relying on the system in uni. We're relying on the system in school. We're relying on our teachers. We're relying on our families, right? So we are not the anchor of any collective group or any family, any society, any community, any team, business, department. We are not the anchor. We are just like one of the people that, in fact, we are the ones that are kind of sucking out all of this, right? All the energy, right? All these resources giving to us. But I'm sure a lot of you listening in, you're the crux of your 30s, some maybe later, maybe younger. You start to realize that, you have people that are reliant on you, whether it's your teammate, your managers, your family, your spouse, your kids. You start to have a support system around you that, yes, while they are supporting you, you are also supporting them. And in fact, you are probably quite an anchor in their lives, right? Maybe you even contribute very substantially back home, right? So at this current situation of your life, you are an anchor. And if you are an anchor, in other words, what does that mean? It means that everybody around you, right, kind of on some level depend on you. So if you don't notify your surrounding, you don't notify the people that are strongly within your social support circle, you may indirectly affect them in trying to pursue this supporting a friend through a financial turmoil pursuit. That being said, right, I'm not saying that, you must chill your wife to go sing karaoke together with a friend or you must intro them to your company and work. No, I'm not saying all that, right? So it is not about getting your social support or your social network to directly participate in this whole endeavor that you're trying to do, but to recognize that because you are in a different situation in life, that there are people around you that are, that anchors their life through you. Then with that, you realize that if you choose to participate through this friend or through a financial turmoil process, you may indirectly affect the quality of lives of the people around you. And I think the basic thing you can do is to seek consent. Right, just talk to your spouse, your partners, your best friends, your teammates, your boss. Let them know that, hey, I have a great friend of mine that I really want to support through this process. It's hard for them, and I want you to know that I'm actually putting some bandwidth and resources to support this friend. So then, actually, everyone around you knows that you're going through stuff. So on some days, maybe you're not so good. You're not in your best state. At least you seek their permission and they understand you. And if, let's say, there's something that you're falling short of, at least they have a context to know that, oh yeah, Reggie's supporting, so and so. And yeah, maybe we can climb some slack, or maybe I should talk to him about, okay for you to support your friend, but work cannot, blah, blah, blah. So at least we give people around us some sort of context to know what we are going through, seek their permission. If they can support you, great. We're not trying to bring them into the situation, but at least know that they are in our peripheral, and whatever that affects us will indirectly affect them. And in this process, come to a mutual understanding. Also at this juncture, I want you to know that when someone is going through these kind of complex emotional process, whether is it finance or not, right? But we personal finance channel, right? So financial turmoil. Sometimes it's a long process of grief. They lost someone and what have you, right? Complex relationships, all sorts of stuff. If someone is going through something that is emotional and deep and dark and hard, as much as we want to be that, supportive friend, the first thing I hope you can do is to also seek their permission. We really don't like advice that come unsolicited, right? We don't want that random, parent or that random auntie, uncle say, wow, what kala kong? Or I tell you. No. We hate that. So why do we want to subject our friends to that? So every time I see that my friends are struggling or people around me, they're struggling, I'll let them know that, hey, if you need someone to support you, you let me know and then we can talk about it. But I'm not here to say I definitely need to support you or you definitely should take a certain path. I'm standing around to let you know that I'm ready if you need me. And I think that's a very, very important. So as much as we seek support and understanding from our immediate social circle as we participate in this pursuit of supporting a friend, we also need to ask that friend, hey, you want my support or not? Right? Because to be fair, sometimes while we may think that we are great friends and, very connected with this particular person, maybe to them, we are not the right person at this point in time. And it's perfectly understandable. Don't force it hard on them. They're already going through a hard time. Which brings me to point number 2 about supporting a friend through financial turmoil, and that is we need to be consistent, right? And by extension, it means that there is a high frequency of meetup or decently high frequency of meetup that we need to do. And we'll continue this after a word from our sponsor. Okay, like I said, right? Financial turmoil is a situation where it is not just finances struggling, it's also emotional, it's also self-identity and all that, right? So it's complicated and heavy. And in this process, sometimes people feel like, I don't really want to go credit counseling lah. I don't want to, cut back on my expenses. I don't know how to tell my wife or my husband or whatever, right? So, maybe I need to downsize my house, very paiseh. So there's a lot of these kind of things that, to be fair, are realities that they have to go through on top of all the emotional and identity crisis that they will go through. So if you choose to be that friend, if you choose to be that friend that supports your friend through a financial turmoil and your friend accepts you, you need to realize that they are being very vulnerable with you. In fact, they may be telling you way more than they tell anybody in this process, right? Why do they feel this level of doubt? Why do they feel this inability to share with other people? Why cannot tell their spouse? So a lot more things will come out. And the last thing you want to do is to not be consistent. I think that is a little bit more of it hurts more than it helps. And what do I mean by consistent? It means that once you decide that this is your thing, you have to hold it through. Or you have to hold it through at least to a high level of probability. If really it gets too shitty for you, right? Talk to your friend and say, hey, I really want to help you, but I have underestimated the complexity of this process. I cannot be your support anymore, right? So at least have that kind of conversation and, fade out if you really cannot. But what I'm telling you is that you go into something like that, you be very clear that there's a lot of meetups that you need to do. It needs to be a hand-holding process. And I want you to be consistent if you want to be that friend that brings them through. And of course, there are a lot of best practices already about working through or supporting a friend through tough times, whether it's pick up a sport together, do yoga together, have picnics together. Doing more, I think it's great and it's important. From a personal experience, I will say, rather than sit down and think, a lot of people try to sit down and think and plan, do a little bit more, right? And it's not always about just solving the problem, but also building that life, maybe become healthier, try to eat a little bit better given your financial limitations, or maybe sometimes you buy fruits, buy more for your friends. So there's a lot of all of that comes together in supporting a friend through a hard time and financial turmoil. You gotta be really consistent and take it as a warning lah, if you choose to pursue this. But I'm not saying that, if you cannot be consistent, you cannot support your friend. Okay? I'm not saying that you cannot be consistent, you cannot support your friend, but you need to know that maybe you are not the main support. Once in a while, you can check in with them. Once in a while, you can makan with them. Once in a while, like maybe a month or two, you can be like, hey, how are you doing? How are things coming along? Have you got a job? Have you went for counseling? Have you done certain things? Right? So you can be that friend on the side. It's perfectly fine and beautiful. Know where you can go. Okay? If you can be consistent and be the main person that walks through with them, like handhold them and walk together, amazing. If you cannot and you just want to support on the side, why not? It's not a bad thing, right? But it's about knowing what you can and knowing that this is complicated and how much you want to commit. I think that's kind of where I'm driving the point at. Which brings me to point number 3 of supporting a friend through financial turmoil, and that is to do some dream building exercises at the end. Why at the end or why slightly later? Not in the beginning, right? When the person is going through the hard time, questioning everything. Companionship is important. Following them, supporting them, finding the experts and all that. Those are great and important, and don't need to jump the gun to say like, hey, so what's your next goal? What's your next plan? What are you looking for? Honestly, person is not in the right state. They are not trying to look further. They just want to solve what is now, which is important, right? I think let's focus on that. But my experience working with people that have been through hard times, been through complex financial turmoils, is that a lot of people then cut back on their expectations of themselves or cut back on their life goals, which, I can understand, very scary, right? Very painful because you take riskier moves, you try to do bigger things, hoping that you can go further, your goals are bigger. And then after that, you'll be like, actually, never mind lah, forget it lah. Let's just live a simple life lah. But trust me, most people that say let us live a simple life, they're not simple at all, and they don't want to be simple. To be clear, there's no issue with being simple, but it's about that dissonance. Shit happens to you, and you then discount your goals going forward. I think that's quite a torture in itself. So while I'm not the biggest like, oh, what is your dream? What's your goal? I'm not the kind of person. I feel like there is a need for something like that when we are in such a situation, right? When you are beaten down, you're affected, you essentially raise the white flag and you become so afraid to take big moves. You become so afraid to dream. You become so afraid to wonder, hey, how much crazier my life can get? How much better can it be? Can I buy that bigger house? Can I travel the world? Can I, be influential? Can I do all these other things? Or can I have 3, 4, 5 kids? Or maybe now I only can have one. So you become afraid. And when you're afraid, I really don't think that's the way to live a life. Fear exists to support us. Fear exists to keep us alive. But excessive fear that discounts our ability to hope and to go further, do you really want that? I'm not sure. So to me, the last stage of supporting a friend through financial turmoil is to dream together. Sit down and think about life again, right? Wondering, what can I do? What do I want? Right? So, I think this is extremely important exercise. Actually, even if you're not financial turmoil, every 5 years, 10 years, you should do something like that. Right? Just kind of think about, wow, my life, these 10 years, very blah, blah, blah. What do I want next? But specifically for a friend, for your partner, especially if it's your partner, or your family member that is going through something like that, if at a later stage of their process towards healing, you can do something like that with them, you can dream with them, you can support them, you can ask them some of these questions so that, we kind of plan our finances again, have that buddy, be that pacer. I think that's extremely important because a lot of people, like I've said, after they fail, after they get hit hard, they give up lah. On some level, not say totally, but we cut back on our lives. And is that really what we want? I don't know. So I think there are a lot of other financial tips and tricks that we have been talking about through this whole podcast. We interview different people and I'm sure you've been learning a lot from different perspectives. But specifically for this situation, because I'm seeing a lot more, right? Whether it's on socials, whether it's when I'm talking to friends, then they open up to me and all that, right? So that's what, inspired me to do an episode like this today, which is on some level, not so financial, but it's tied to it, right? It's tied to it. So I'm going to sum up the 3 points. Number 1 is to make sure you're in a good state and let your social support system know that you're going to participate in this process of supporting a friend through financial turmoil. Because like it or not, it's going to be a lot more complicated. You're going to be putting more resources in all aspects, right? Your life, your energy, your social relationship, your time. And if you choose to participate with your friend through this process at such an intimate level, I do think that you should ask people around you whether you can do this, right? So that at least they know, they have context that you're going to participate in such a process. And also make sure you're in a decently good shape, right? If you're not, it's okay, Don't need to gung-ho and hero and, be that one. It's fine because we all have times when we are not in the best state. And these days, when I look at supporting a friend, I'm actually very cautious because I know the complexity that it is, and I'm not being a bad friend. I'm just not in the best state. And point number 2 is to be consistent and recognize that there's a need for high frequency meetup because you essentially become very entrenched in their lives. They will tell you all sorts of things. You may need to support them through a lot of complicated financial processes, credit counseling, debt restructuring, and all that stuff. And in this process, they will tell you a lot. And the last thing I think we want is to, volunteer like, yeah, okay, I want to be that friend, and then not very consistent, right? As the reality becomes more and more real that, it's actually very complicated and it's very heavy. And it so happened in this process, you realize it's very heavy, very complicated. Please let your friend know and, don't ghost them. Let them know, hey, I'm limited by my abilities. Take a step back. But point number 2 is to be consistent so that in this process, you become their anchor to move through this turmoil process. And point number 3 is to then build some dreams, right? Because I think a lot of people, after they fall, after things are shit, they discount their lives, they discount their dreams. And I, after going through so much, feel like, there's a reality, yes, but the fear to dream and the fear to aim bigger sounds pretty torturous too. So with that, I hope you learned something useful today. See ya. I hope you learned something useful today and truly appreciate that you took time off to better your life with the Financial Coconut. Knowledge is that much more powerful, interesting when shared, debated, and discussed. Join our community Telegram group, share with us on your socials, like, share, subscribe, whatever. And if there was one thing that I really hope that you can do is to share this on your socials. Help us grow. We have already gotten to a serious size, right? We are the largest personal finance network in Singapore, but we want to go further, maybe go abroad, or welcome some friends that are not the first bunch of people that will think of personal finance. So if you can help us grow this network, please share this on your socials. With that, I'll see you next week. Okay, so as you know by now, I'm a big fanfare of emotional wellness. I am super big on this whole psyche thing. I read up a lot. I learn a lot along the way of first-hand experience. I work with different therapists and all that, right? So I've gone through quite a bit of these things, and I have a more nuanced view of these things rather than your pure finance people, right? They come in like everything, money one can calculate one, we cut back here, we do this, do that. And they are not ill-intentioned. Let's be clear, they're not ill-intentioned. They just want to support you. But when someone gets into a state like that, those kind of skills are limited. It's not enough to get someone through that support. And I'm not saying that you have to be so equipped to go through that. But, the reality is it's hard and you got to be ready lah. Right? So I think that's for today's episode. And if so happen, hey, if you're listening and so happen that you're going through a hard time, you can DM me on our Telegram group. I will do my best to give you some thoughts and ideas. And if I don't mind meeting you for coffee, we all go through hard times. Things get better. And next week we're going to do a 3-part series actually. I'm going to separate part 1, another episode, part 2, another episode, part 3, like that, right? So that you don't get bored if it's not the main thing that you're focused on. So next week we're going to start a 3-part series focusing on getting pay increment. Right? Because I think at this point in time, a lot of people feel like, wow, inflation is crazy, man. I need to go and ask my boss for more money. If not, I want to jump. Right? And these are what we call off-cycle increment processes. And I think we did a Telegram group poll, and this was one of the main things that you guys want to focus on. So I decided to bring the friend of a show, Adrian, to come back and talk a little bit more about this. So we'll do a 3-part series. Right? Part 1 is before asking for pay raise. Part 2 is during asking for pay raise. How do you strategize, talk to your boss, increase your probability? And after that, if let's say you get a pay raise, great, good on you. If you don't get, then what do? Right, so 3-part series starts next week. Let me know if you love these kind of series, because I think as we move along, we realize that series help, all of us to understand things a little bit better. So see you next week.
Everyone gets AT&T's best deal on the new iPhone 14 Pro with the incredible camera. So, people currently listening to comedy podcasts, and people listening to political podcasts, and people listening to true crime podcasts who actually can't stop listening to true crime podcasts and it's ruling their lives. The point is, everyone, new and existing customers. Ask how to get up to $800 off the new iPhone 14 Pro with eligible trade-in. Visit att.com or our stores for details. Terms and restrictions may apply.